Hi, I'm Andrea. I'm going to keep this short and sweet because nobody's got any attention span, but I'm going to explain to you what you're about to watch. So I am Chief Strategy Officer at GNW, and I have been consulting on MarTech and B2B marketing in general for over 10 years. It's been a long decade. And as part of that, I have explained lead lifecycle no less than, 400 times to different people of different various experiences. And we have a new consultant who wanted to get my take on the lead lifecycle, so I pontificated at him for about an hour on the subject. And then I uploaded that to Notebook LM. It's a product by Google, in case you don't know, a little AI tool. It's really meant for studying, I believe, but it also has this ability to create a podcast. So I took what I think is a pretty good podcast, and then I created little avatars, and I went to DID, another AI tool, and had them put little mouths on my avatars to move them around. However, it was kind of a lot of work. For the first, 30 seconds or so, you're gonna see avatars, a man and a woman, and then again, I just got lazy. So that's all you get. But that's it. This is the recap of my take on what lead life cycles are and why you should use them. And then AI making it sound smarter. Thanks, enjoy.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're diving deep into the world of lead life cycles in B2B sales and marketing.
Okay.
You've shared an audio recording of a consultant conversation.
Yeah.
That's got me thinking. It's not just about tracking leads, it's about strategy. So let's unpack this together and see how these insights can help you drive real business growth.
It's fascinating how those consultants frame lead life cycles. They're not just a sales tool. They're a strategic map of the entire customer journey.
Okay. But for someone who might be tuning in for the first time,
Right.
Let's start with the basics. What exactly is a lead life cycle?
Imagine it as a customer's journey. From stranger to loyal advocate, visually mapped out, tracks how potential customers, your leads, move through awareness engagement and eventually a purchase decision.
Okay. And the consultants were adamant about why this matters, not just for marketing teams, but for anyone involved in growing a business.
Yeah, absolutely. They went deep on 4 key purposes. First up, ensuring no lead gets left behind. This is about capitalizing on those crucial moments of engagement. A timely follow-up can make all the difference.
They said something that really stuck with me, leaving business on the table. It made me think about all the potential revenue lost when leads slip through the cracks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It happens more often than you think, especially in fast-paced B2B environments.
Yeah.
Now, the second purpose is where the strategic value shines. Measuring marketing effectiveness. Think beyond just revenue. It's about understanding what's really working.
And they had a great example to illustrate this. An appointment-setting tech company expanding into the veterinarian market.
They saw a gap in that market and needed a laser-focused approach to reach those vet offices. That's where their lead lifecycle became crucial.
So it helped them measure the effectiveness of their efforts to tap into that new market.
Exactly. They were tracking website traffic from that specific segment, engagement with marketing materials, and of course those all-important conversion rates. By analyzing these metrics within their lead lifecycle framework, they could see what was resonating with veterinarians and adjust their campaigns accordingly.
So it's about moving beyond vanity metrics and getting a granular understanding of what's driving success or hindering it.
Now, the third purpose they dug into was understanding conversion rates and speed. Think of it like fine-tuning an engine for optimal performance.
So we're talking about analyzing how efficiently leads are moving through the sales funnel and identifying any bottlenecks.
Right. They even talked about benchmarking, comparing your performance to industry standards to see where you stand. And cohort analysis, which lets you track groups of leads with similar characteristics to see how they progress through the funnel.
It's like creating a detailed map of your sales process, highlighting the areas where leads are speeding through and where they're getting stuck.
They really emphasized understanding the average time it takes for a lead to convert into a customer. By analyzing this, you can identify what's working, what's not, and ultimately accelerate that conversion process.
Okay, and the fourth purpose, this is where it gets a little more intriguing, identifying and managing deviations from the happy path.
They explain the happy path as the ideal scenario where a lead seamlessly moves through the funnel and becomes a customer. But we all know that rarely happens in reality.
Right. Things rarely go that smoothly. So how did they suggest we deal with these inevitable detours?
They broke those deviations down into 2 main categories, junk and not ready now. Junk leads are simply a bad fit for your product or service.
Okay.
For example, a company targeting small businesses that attracts a lead from a massive corporation, It's a mismatch from the start.
And not ready now are those leads who might be a good fit eventually, but it's something stopping them from converting immediately. It could be budget constraints, existing contracts with competitors, or maybe they just don't fully understand the value your solution offers. The key takeaway here is that understanding the why behind these deviations is crucial for developing effective segmentation and nurturing strategies.
So instead of writing those leads off, you can tailor your approach based on where they are in their journey.
Okay.
Maybe they need more information, a different type of content, or a nudge at the right moment. They were also skeptical about those lead scoring systems where leads get points based on their actions.
Right.
They believe those scores could be misleading. Someone actively seeking solutions and engaging with your content is far more valuable than someone who passively downloaded a white paper. Customer intent, they argued, is the strongest indicator of buying readiness.
So lead life cycles aren't just about tracking leads, they're about understanding the nuances of the customer journey and using that knowledge to guide your marketing efforts.
Precisely. Now, here's where things get really interesting. They emphasize that building a lead life cycle is only the first step. The real magic happens when you align it with your overall business strategy.
So you can't just set it and forget it. You have to actively connect the data to your business goals.
Exactly. They've seen companies invest a ton of time and resources in building complex lead life cycles, only to struggle to translate that data into meaningful action.
It's like having a high-tech map with no destination in mind.
The consultants stress the importance of extracting actionable insights from the data and presenting them in a way that resonates with the C-suite. They gave another compelling example, a healthcare company focused on stealing market share in the nursing home bed industry.
Okay, so how did they use their lead life cycle to gain a competitive advantage?
Since their primary goal was capturing market share, they designed their lead lifecycle accordingly. They weren't just tracking leads in general, they were specifically targeting companies already working with competitors.
So they were using the lead life cycle as a tool to measure the effectiveness of their competitive strategy.
Exactly. By tracking how effectively they were moving those specific leads through the funnel, they could see what was working and what needed to be adjusted.
They also stressed the importance of identifying the lowest hanging fruit, the segments of their target audience most receptive to their message.
It's about maximizing efficiency and focusing on the areas where you're most likely to see results.
Absolutely. It's about working smarter, not harder. And they also highlighted a critical challenge bridging the gap between operations and strategy.
They talked about that disconnect, right? The operations teams who typically build and manage lead life cycles often operate in a silo separate from the strategic direction of the business.
Right, and that can lead to missed opportunities. They emphasized empowering operations professionals to think critically about the data and ask the right questions.
So it's not just about following instructions. It's about understanding the why behind the what and connecting the dots between data and business outcomes.
They believe in empowering those working on the front lines to become data storytellers. That's a great way to put it. It's about bridging the gap between data and decision-making and ensuring that the insights gleaned from lead life cycles are informing strategic decisions at all levels of the organization. Now, before we move on, I'm curious, what's resonating with you so far? What stands out from what we've discussed?
It's fascinating how this conversation highlights the need for data literacy at all levels of an organization. It's not just about having data, it's about empowering people to understand and use it effectively.
Yeah, and those consultants even talked about bypassing middle management sometimes to connect directly with executives who get it. That's a bold move, but it makes sense if you're hitting a wall.
It's about finding those champions who can drive change and break down those silos. If you can demonstrate how a well-designed lead lifecycle contributes to key business objectives, you're speaking their language, the language of results.
They were also big on empowering those operations professionals to think more strategically. It's not just about crunching numbers. It's about connecting the dots and seeing the bigger picture.
They really hammered home the point that operations teams need to ask the right questions, challenge assumptions, and connect data points to business outcomes. It's about shifting from a purely tactical mindset to a more strategic one.
And they even talked about helping their clients develop the skills to communicate their value upwards within their organizations. It's not enough to be doing good work. You need to be able to articulate its impact and advocate for its importance.
Especially in those organizations where data insights might not be fully appreciated yet. It's about finding those allies who understand the power of data-driven decision-making.
Now, I want to get a little more tactical. They talked about benchmarking and cohort analysis, but I felt like they could have gone deeper on how to actually use those techniques effectively.
You're right, they skim the surface. But I think their insights give us a good starting point. With benchmarking, it's about comparing your performance to industry standards or best practices. It helps you understand where you stand in the competitive landscape and identify areas for improvement.
So if you find that your conversion rates are significantly lower than the industry average, that's a red flag, right? It's a signal that something needs to change.
Exactly. Benchmarking helps you set realistic goals and track your progress. But it's not just about comparing numbers. It's about understanding the why behind the numbers. Why are your competitors outperforming you? What are they doing differently? Those are the questions benchmarking can help you answer.
And cohort analysis, that's about tracking specific groups of leads over time to see how they move through the funnel. It's like observing different species in their natural habitat to understand their behavior patterns.
I love that analogy. And it highlights the importance of segmentation. You might track cohorts based on their industry company size or how they first interacted with your business.
By observing those different journeys, you can identify which tactics work best for which group.
Exactly. Webinars might be super effective for engaging leads from one industry, while email campaigns resonate more with leads from smaller companies. It's about tailoring your approach to maximize impact.
It's about embracing the nuances of your audience and moving away from that one-size-fits-all mentality that we often see in marketing.
Now remember, that healthcare company focused on stealing market share. They cleverly segmented their leads based on their existing relationships with competitors, essentially creating cohorts based on competitive alignment.
That's so smart. They weren't just tracking leads in general, they were laser-focused on companies already working with their rivals.
And by analyzing the behavior of those specific cohorts, they could see how effectively they were winning over those customers and identify any roadblocks they needed to address.
It's like they were using the lead lifecycle as a weapon in their competitive arsenal. It's a great example of how data can inform strategic decision-making, not just measure performance.
They also highlighted the importance of focusing on the lowest hanging fruit, the segments of their target audience that were most receptive to their messaging. This approach maximizes efficiency and ensures that resources are allocated where they'll have the greatest impact.
It's about picking the battles you're most likely to win. Now, they were also pretty outspoken about challenging assumptions, especially when it comes to traditional lead scoring mechanisms. They believe that customer intent is a much stronger indicator of buying readiness.
I think that's a crucial point. It's easy to get caught up in assigning points to every action a lead takes. But sometimes the simplest indicators are the most powerful. Is the lead actively seeking information? Are they engaging with relevant content? These are the signs of a truly qualified lead.
And they also cautioned against relying too heavily on automation, emphasizing the importance of human intuition and judgment.
Technology is a powerful tool, but it shouldn't replace the critical thinking skills and experience of a skilled marketer. It's about finding that balance between data-driven insights and human understanding.
The ideal scenario is when technology empowers human decision-making, not replaces it.
Right. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, communication. Those consultants really hit on the challenges of communicating the value of lead life cycles within organizations. They talked about that common disconnect between operations teams who often build and manage these systems and the strategic direction of the business.
They stress the importance of bridging that gap and empowering those operations professionals to think more critically about the data they're collecting and analyzing. It's not just about following instructions, it's about understanding the why behind the what and connecting the dots between those data points and the bigger business goals.
They even talked about bypassing middle management sometimes to connect directly with executives who get it. That's a bold move, but it makes sense if you're hitting a wall and need those executive champions to drive change.
It's about recognizing that sometimes you have to go straight to the top to get things moving. They also highlighted the potential for using lead lifecycle data to identify areas for improvement in marketing leadership. If you're not seeing the results you want, it might be time to ask some tough questions about whether you have the right people in the right roles.
It's about using data not just to track leads, but to assess the effectiveness of your marketing organization as a whole.
Now, before we wrap up, I want to touch on something they said that really resonated with me. They talked about the importance of the art of marketing, even in this increasingly data-driven world.
They made a great point about how marketing is both a science and an art. You need the scientific rigor of data analysis, but you also need the creativity and intuition to connect with your audience on an emotional level.
It can't all be about spreadsheets and algorithms.
They put it so perfectly. They said it's not just science, it's also a little bit of voodoo. And of course, they were being a little cheeky. But it underscores that we're dealing with humans, and human behavior is never fully predictable.
Even with all the data in the world, you can't perfectly predict how someone will react to your marketing.
That's where the art of marketing comes in, understanding the psychology of your audience, anticipating their needs, and crafting messages that truly resonate.
It reminds me of something we discussed earlier about not ready now, leads.
Wow.
You could have all the data pointing to a perfect fit, but if the timing's not right, if they're not emotionally ready to make a decision, it's not going to happen.
And that's where things like content marketing and nurturing campaigns become so important. It's about building relationships, providing value, and being there when the customer is finally ready to take that next step.
That brings us back to the importance of communication, especially between those who are building these lead lifecycle systems and those who are making strategic decisions. The consultants saw that disconnect firsthand, and they had some interesting strategies for bridging that gap.
One thing they emphasized was empowering operations professionals to think more strategically. Instead of just seeing themselves as data processors, they need to understand the why behind their work and connect the dots between the data and the bigger business goals.
They also talked about finding those executive champions who can advocate for data-driven decision-making at the highest levels of the organization.
Sometimes you have to go straight to the top to get those resources and support you need. They also suggested helping clients develop the skills to communicate the value of their work effectively, to become data storytellers who can translate complex information into compelling narratives.
It's not just about numbers, it's about painting a picture of the customer journey and showing how a well-designed lead lifecycle can drive real business results. Now, as we wrap up this deep dive into lead life cycles, I want to leave you with one final thought. Remember that it's not just about tracking leads, it's about understanding the customer journey and using that knowledge to grow your business.
Think about your own specific challenges. Are you struggling to convert leads? Or are you losing potential customers to competitors? Are you having trouble communicating the value of your marketing efforts?
A well-designed and strategically aligned lead life cycle can help you answer those questions and more. It can give you a roadmap for acquiring new customers, retaining existing ones, and maximizing the lifetime value of each relationship.
So dive deep into your own data challenge assumptions. Ask the right questions. And most importantly, never stop learning.